The room falls silent. All that breaks the spell of tension is Kody's voice. The words are trembling, but chillingly clear. I didn't know how to be a dad. I see. I did it wrong in so many ways. Okay. For years, fans have begged him to say those words, but when he finally does, something feels off. There's no warmth, no regret, no emotion, just emptiness behind his eyes. The man who once claimed to be the devoted patriarch of a sprawling family of 18 suddenly sounds like a stranger to his children. Akak. And then it hits, his tears don't look like grief. His tears look like guilt, or maybe shame, maybe performance. Because when Kody Brown cries, the world stops believing. He finally said it out loud. Kody Brown feels nothing. For his children, no connection, no empathy, no remorse, only control, excuses, and the hollow echo of what a father should have been. But here's the question haunting each viewer tonight. Was this finally the truth? Or just another manipulation from a man who's made a career out of rewriting it? Stay with me, crew, because this time, the mask didn't just slip, it shattered. Kank. The scene opens inside a desolate desert, compound, nothing fancy, no wives, no kids, no TLC cameras. Speed. Just a handful of former soldiers testing celebrities to their breaking point. Kody stands among them, his signature curls shorn off, his bravado gone, the protective walls he built up over 14 seasons of sister wives torn down. Again, the instructors call it truth extraction. Fans call it karma. Kang, in the episode that aired, Kody is seated on a folding stool, his shoulders slouched, eyes darting between the instructors, like a man searching for a script that isn't there. One of them asks sharply, "Do you feel you've taken proper responsibility for the fallout with your kids?" There's a pause, long enough to make even the editors nervous. Then Kody exhales and mutters, I don't like being wrong. That single sentence detonates online. Within minutes of broadcast, Twitter threads, Reddit pages, and Sister Wives fan groups light up. Screenshots spread faster than spoilers. I don't like being wrong. Viewers call it the truest thing he's ever said, because for once, Kody didn't deflect, he confessed. But what followed turned disbelief. He added, "My failures were because I didn't know how to be a good dad and husband. I thought I did." On paper, those words sound like growth, but his tone, flat, distant, almost clinical, like a man explaining a failed business plan instead of broken relationships. He wipes at his face, but there are no real tears, no shake in the voice that betrays genuine regret, and the internet sees it immediately. That's not accountability, that's performance guilt. One fan posts, one writes, "Kody finally learned the words, 'I was wrong,' but he still doesn't know what they mean." Yeah, the world had been waiting for years for Kody Brown to feel something. No, and when he finally spoke, the only thing they saw was emptiness. When TLC audiences first met Kody back in Arsene sure, he was the confident, grinning patriarch, introducing America to modern polygamy. He was proud, playful, even charming. He called himself a great communicator and equal partner. But over time, cracks appeared, wives walking away one by one, children distancing themselves, the family brand unraveling. And now, on Special Forces, there was no editing bay to protect him. No couch interviews, no sympathetic producers, just raw exposure. Every word hits harder in the stripped-down environment. When he says, "I didn't know how to be a dad," you can almost hear the subtext, "I didn't care enough to learn." And the instructors sense it too. One tells him bluntly, "That's adolescent thinking." Another adds, "When you truly own it, you'll do something about it." The cut's deeper than any desert wind. Kody nods, lips tight, eyes to the ground, but not in shame, more like annoyance. He hates being corrected. Even in a boot camp designed to break egos, Kody's pride was the last thing standing. Within an hour of the episode's premiere, Kody Brown and Mr. Special Forces are trending across social media. TikTok is filled with reaction edits, half disbelief, half dark humor. One creator overlays the confession with clown music, another uses slow motion and caption. When narcissism meets accountability for the first time. Threads on Reddit analyze every frame. His eyes don't match his words. You notice he says, "You my failures were because," instead of "I failed." He's still dodging ownership, even in confession. It becomes one of the most discussed Special Forces moments ever. beating even sports stars' breakdowns and celebrity quits. Why? Because this wasn't some staged reality spat. It was a man who'd built his life around moral superiority, finally being cornered by truth. To longtime viewers of Sister Wives, it felt like vindication. For years, they watched him alienate Christine, belittle Janelle, and emotionally freeze out his sons. Each wife had whispered versions of the same complaint. He doesn't listen. He doesn't feel. Now he'd confirmed it himself. And now, let's dissect the psychology here. When Kody says, I didn't know how to be a dad, he is not acknowledging damage. He is excusing it. It's classic narcissistic deflection wrapped in vulnerability. He avoids guilt by professing ignorance instead of intent. It's like saying, I didn't mean to crash the car, I just didn't know how to drive. But after 18 kids and 20 plus years of parenting, ignorance is not innocence, okay? That's what made the internet incensed. Viewers wanted repentance. Kody doled out rationale. They wanted to hear, I hurt my kids, and I'm sorry, not I didn't know better. In the language of accountability, I didn't know is just another way to say, it wasn't my fault. Yeah. Watch the clip again, but this time, focus on his body language. The slouch stance, the shallow breathing, the hand over the mouth, a classic tell when someone hides discomfort versus emotion. When true remorse occurs, the facial features relax, Kody's tightens, even body language analysts weighed in online. One pointed out, in a viral breakdown, how Kody's tears only appeared once the instructors softened their tone, which suggested emotional mimicry rather than true feeling. He reacts to sympathy cues, not self-reflection, it's theater. And the fans know that, but ironically, that's what makes the clip so powerful. It's the first time he couldn't fully control the script. The setting, the instructors, the exhaustion, all forced him to drop part of the mask. And what peeked through wasn't a wounded father. It was a man terrified of being ordinary, terrified of being wrong. In Kane, in the days following broadcast, every entertainment outlet ran headlines. Kody Brown breaks down on special forces. Kody Brown admits he failed as a father. Fans say, too little, too late. Christine Brown posted a quote in an Instagram caption, healing doesn't start with words, it starts with changed behavior. Janelle liked the post. Meri stayed silent. Robyn, the last remaining wife, reportedly supported Kody's participation on the show, calling it good for his growth. Years commences, tier tailx pairs, comments a Tevin call. But viewers weren't convinced. Comments flooded TLC pages growth. He's weaponizing vulnerability. Even some former cast members from other TLC franchises weighed in on the situation. One, Culture fiancé alum tweeted, accountability hits different when there's no paycheck attached. Why did this confession break the internet? Because it exposed a contradiction at the heart of the Kody Brown saga, the difference between appearing emotional and actually being human. Authenticity is in demand from audiences, most especially from a man who has spent 15 years on camera, usually espousing leadership, faith, and family values. When the same man says, I didn't know how to be a dad, his hypocrisy burns brighter than the desert sun. And yet, beneath the anger, there's a strange sadness. Viewers once loved the early Brown family, the laughter, the road trips, the chaos that felt so real. Watching Kody crumble now feels like watching the death of that dream. The family that once challenged stereotypes has become the case study for emotional neglect. The confession didn't just expose Kody, it exposed how long fans had been hoping he'd change. As the episode wraps up, the instructors leave Kody to his thoughts. The camera lingers on his tired face, hollow, expressionless. In that moment, it's impossible to tell if he's processing regret or rehearsing his next defense. The screen fades to black, but the internet continues to replay the scene over and over again. In frames, searching for a heartbeat behind the words. Was this finally the moment when Kody Brown faced the truth? Or was this just another show? For a new audience, a different set of cameras, yet another way to keep relevant while pretending to repent? The desert air is dry, yet Kody's tears glimmer under the Moroccan sun. The cameras zoom in to capture every tremor, every sigh. He has just said it again, the line that haunts the audience. I didn't know how to be a dad. I did it wrong in so many ways. But this time, it's what follows that disconcerts everyone. He looks down, shakes his head, and mutters, almost under his breath, I don't feel anything anymore. And there it is, the truth he's been dancing around for years, the emptiness behind the eyes, the disconnection between emotion and expression. The world sees tears, but behind them, nothing. There is a term in psychology called emotional flattening. This happens when a person shuts down emotionally so as not to feel any more pain brought about by accountability. The feelings are still there. However, they have been buried deep inside. To feel anything would be to admit too much. And that is what makes this version of Kody so unnerving. He's crying, yes, but it's performative crying. His face moves, but his soul doesn't. The emotions look rehearsed, perfectly timed for when the cameras close in. Experts refer to this as self-presentation mode, a person assuming the mantle of vulnerability as a means of perception management. To the casual viewer, it looks like healing. To anyone who has been watching him for a decade, it looks like control. In Kody's world, even pain becomes a performance at a stage where remorse is just another prop. Hang on Special Forces, there are no wives to defend him, no Robyn crying beside him, no TLC producers editing out awkward silence. For once, he's face to face with men who don't buy what he's selling. When he says, I hated being blamed for it. It made me resistant to ownership, one of the instructors fires back. That's adolescent thinking. As you can almost see the crack in Kody's facade. A microsecond of panic before the mask slides back into place. He smirks, nods, says I'll take that, but his eyes harden. That's the psychological split working here. A vulnerable ego masquerading in humble clothes. He only acknowledges his wrongdoing when he is cornered. He apologizes only when he is losing control. Notice when Kody's voice starts to tremble. It isn't when he talks about his children's pain, it's when he talks about his own. He says, I hated being blamed for it. And that line is crucial because he's not lamenting what he had done, but is only mourning that people noticed. Clinically, it's called narcissistic injury. An individual feels wounded not by guilt, but loss of image. The tears come from shame, not sorrow, from exposure, not empathy. So he breaks down on camera, not because he suddenly feels love for his kids, but because for the first time, the world sees him without polish, the performer without a platform, the father without authority. He's not crying for his children, he's crying because he can't control anymore how we see him. If you trace Kody's history, this emotional coldness isn't new. It has been quietly sculpted over decades. Remember the pandemic episode when he refused to visit his sons Garrison and Gabriel because they didn't respect his rules? The boys begged for connection. Kody responded with withdrawal. Christine once said, when I needed him, he wasn't there. Janelle said, he acts like love is conditional, like we have to earn it. Even Meri, long before her final separation, recognized he doesn't show affection, he shows control. All of it points to the same psychological root, avoidant detachment. This is when one fears vulnerability so badly that they'd rather starve others emotionally than take a risk of being rejected. In the avoidant mind, love equals weakness, distance equals power, And so Kody constructed a fortress out of ego, mistaking dominance for leadership, silence for strength, and control for love. Emotional numbness doesn't arrive overnight. It's learned, it's practiced, it's rewarded. For Kody, TLC's cameras, the adoration, the spotlight, the validation were the reward. Every outburst was a headline, every tear a trailer. In time, real emotions got replaced by what looked good on screen. And when a man spends sterile years performing family life, he forgets what it feels like to actually live it. He forgets that connection isn't built on obedience. It's built on empathy. So when he says, I feel nothing anymore, it's not some sort of epiphany, it's muscle memory. He has spent years numbing himself to pain, to failure, to love. But the tragedy is, he's numbed himself to his own children, too. In trying to protect his pride, Kody Brown destroyed the very thing that made him human. the ability to feel for someone other than himself. Normally, when someone breaks down publicly, audiences root for redemption, not here. Why? Because the timing feels strategic. Okay, this is not a confession made in a session of family therapy or at some reunion with his children. This is a confession made on national television in front of during a reality competition. That's not vulnerability. That's image management, and fans sense it. They're not angry that Kody's crying. They're angry that he's using the language of remorse without the actions to match. For years, he's said he misses his children, yet he makes no effort to reach out, to apologize, to rebuild. And that's why Christine's words sting so hard when she says, he's never been accountable. He's only been consistent in self-preservation. Remorse without repair isn't growth. It's manipulation in disguise. There's another layer to this. Viewers who followed Kody's rise from charming plural husband to isolated reality star know one thing: every tear he's shed has been followed by deflection. In season, Shabbat of Sister Wives, he cried when he lost Christine, then immediately blamed her for destroying the family. In season Sergio, he broke down about Janelle's sons, then accused them of disrespect. And now, on Special Forces, he breaks down about being a bad father, but frames it as ignorance, not neglect. It is a cycle cry. Deflect, repeat. That's why this moment feels so cold, because deep down, everyone watching senses the same thing. Kody isn't sorry he hurt people. He's sorry he got caught being the kind of man who could. Behind every detached parent comes a trail of invisible damage, children who learn to question their worth, partners who confuse silence with safety, families who crumble under the weight of one person's pride. That expense is already visible for Kody. Okay, his sons won't speak to him, his daughters don't trust him, and his ex-wives have found peace without him. A man who in the past boasted of his leadership now stands alone, legally joined with one woman, emotionally attached to none. But the saddest part, he still doesn't see it. For seeing it would require feeling it. And that's something he has forgotten how to do. Kink. Where Kody's tragedy lies is not in having lost his family, it's that he doesn't even miss them the way a father should. As the Special Forces episode concludes, the camera pans over Kody staring into the distance, eyes empty, face still. No words, just the wind, and you can't help but wonder, is he reflecting on his failures or rehearsing his next defense? Because if this was the moment Kody Brown finally felt something, it came 20 years too late, Before Kody Brown ever set foot in the Moroccan desert, before the cameras caught his trembling voice and hollow confession, the signs were already there, quietly woven into the fabric of his family's history. His emotional coldness didn't begin on Special Forces. It began long before the tears, long before the drills, and long before he'd admitted it at all. It originated at home, in the heart of a family that once was to be built on love, unity, and faith. When Sister Wives first premiered in 2011, Kody Brown was painted as the daring father who wanted to normalize plural marriage, smiling, energetic, charismatic, the kind of man who could charm a room full of skeptics. But beneath that charming veneer lay something colder, quieter, a need to be obeyed. From the beginning, Kody equated leadership with dominance. He decided which wife he visited and which children got attention were allowed in his house. He once said, "I'm the head of this family, and I expect everyone to respect that." To outsiders, it sounded like confidence. To those inside his home, it sounded like control. Meri learned that lesson first. When she struggled with infertility and loneliness, Kody's patience evaporated. He withdrew affection, turning emotional distance into punishment. Then came Janelle, the practical wife, the stabilizer. Kody treated her efficiency as emotional strength, a convenient excuse to avoid giving her real intimacy. Christine wanted love and partnership. Instead, she got judgment and lectures about spiritual purity. By the time Robyn came into the picture, Kody's coldness wasn't a flaw, it was a pattern. He rewarded obedience, punished independence. In Kody's world, love had conditions since the very beginning. First, loyalty. After that, feelings. Christine was the first to call it out. And on camera she said, "He's no longer present. He's not the man I married. What she meant wasn't just physical absence, it was emotional vacancy. Kody had stopped showing up long before he stopped visiting. She begged him to see their daughter, Isabel, during her scoliosis surgery. He refused, blaming COVID, but the fans knew the truth. Kody's rules weren't about safety, they were about control. The girl's surgery wasn't the risk, his authority was. Janelle saw that same behavior through a different lens. She was often the peacemaker, the practical one, but even she hit her breaking point when Kody demanded her sons follow his rules to the letter, even as he dismissed their pain. When Gabriel cried on camera, confessing how much he missed his dad, Kody's reaction wasn't empathy, it was irritation. He didn't embrace his son, he didn't apologize, he said, "He just doesn't respect me." And that one line said it all. Kody didn't want a relationship, he wanted compliance. In Kody's world, love was earned only through obedience and lost the moment anyone questioned him. Somewhere between season 1 and sure, something shifted. The family that once gathered around campfires and road trips now lived in separate homes, separate hearts. The Browns had become a brand, and Kody, its CEO. This move to Flagstaff exposed the cracks. Completely, he bought expensive land under the guise of building one big home, but he never did. He said he wanted unity, and in reality, he sought control over the assets, location, and access. Money turned into feeling, property into power. He referred to his decisions as family leadership. The wives referred to it as, Christine said once in an interview, "It's like he's in love with power, not people." And maybe that's the most haunting truth. Kody didn't stop feeling because he couldn't. He stopped feeling because it made control harder. Empathy requires equality. Control requires distance. The children who grew up deprived of a father's warmth, the ripple effect of Kody's emotional neglect is most visible in his children. Garrison was candid about how his dad's favoritism toward Robyn's kids engendered resentment. Gabrielle cried when Kody forgot his birthday during the pandemic. McKelty described her dad as emotionally unavailable. Aspen pulled away quietly, paying more attention to her own family. As Christine's son Peyton so eloquently put it, Dad wants control, not connection. And Kody often defends himself by saying, "They're adults, they made their choices." But that's the tragedy. They didn't choose to lose a father. They were pushed away by a man too proud to bend. His repeated claim is not a revelation, but the outcome of decades of life choices to place authority over affection, ego over empathy, pride over parenthood. Every cold word, every ignored call, every withheld hug, those weren't. Polygamy gave Kody a structure to hide behind. It offered the illusion of spirituality to justify control. In the Apostolic United Brethren, men are priesthood, heads women are expected to obey. Kody flourished at the pinnacle of that hierarchy. Every disagreement became rebellion. Every emotional need became disrespect. Over time, he didn't just use faith as a way to control his wives, he used it to rationalize his lack of empathy. He convinced himself he was righteous even when he was cruel. So when he sat on special forces, confessing, "I didn't know how to be a dad," it wasn't a sudden awakening. It was a lifetime of rationalization collapsing under pressure. He never forgot how to love, he just never believed it was as important as being obeyed. Christine leaving was the first crack. Janelle's independence widened it. Meri's quiet resignation sealed it. And when the wives left, Kody didn't chase them, he blamed them. "They chose to walk away," he said. But beneath that denial lurked something darker. A man who emotionally disengaged so completely, even lost, couldn't touch him. In special forces, when the instructor tells him, "That's adolescent thinking," you can almost see the flash of recognition, not because Kody disagrees, but because he knows it's true. He has been stuck in emotional adolescence for years. The boy who wants to win arguments instead of nurturing relationships, the man who confuses control for respect, and the father who perceives his children as defiant soldiers, not human beings who deserve connection. Kody Brown didn't just lose his family. He trained himself to stop caring that he did. The pattern of hurt didn't start in Morocco. It started at the dinner tables, where Kody refused to listen, in the bedrooms, where wives cried alone, in the birthdays forgotten, in the hugs never given. It began in the quiet moments when his family needed warmth and got ice instead. And now, standing out in the desert, bereft of comfort, and surrounded by people he doesn't know, he's forced to confront what the world always knew, that the man who said he loved 4 women and 18 children never knew what love demanded. Okay? He calls it honesty. We call it damage. Yay. As Kody stares out into the Moroccan night, his words echo back like ghosts. Yeah. I didn't know how to be a dad, and can't. But with his children distant and his empire fractured now, the question isn't whether he knew how, it's whether he ever really wanted to. Kanged. The air feels heavier than before in the Special Forces tent. The instructors are battle-hardened, stoic men programmed to recognize weakness, to recognize the second somebody's breaking or bluffing. When Kody Brown sits in front of them, back hunched and eyes with the floor, they didn't see courage, they saw confusion. The moment begins quietly. One of the directing staff looks him dead in the eye and says, "Yo, that resistance, that not wanting to be blamed, it's adolescent." The words hit like a hammer. For a second, Kody's trademark composure flickers. He smirks half defensive, half humiliated and mutters, "I'll take that." But the smirk doesn't hold. The camera catches it, a flash of raw, unguarded emotion. The mask slips. Thing for over a decade, Kody Brown has built an identity around control, of image, narrative, and family. On Sister Wives, he's always been the one with answers, the final word, the patriarch whose voice drowns out dissent. But here, stripped of comfort and rank, he can't talk his way out. The soldier bends forward. "You take responsibility right this instant," he continues, "because it's your fault alone, nobody else's." Okay? The silence afterwards is deafening. For once, Kody doesn't have a counter-argument. He doesn't have that booming confidence or preacher-like cadence that carried him through a decade of reality television. What he has instead is the look of a man who's been publicly unmasked. Night. And in that moment, millions of viewers saw what his wives had seen for years. Under the charisma was a scared boy still arguing with the idea of responsibility. Kank. The mask did not fall off simply because it was ripped off. It fell because it could no longer hold the weight of his own excuses. Again, when Kody tries to speak again, his voice is shaking. "You know, my failures were because I didn't know about being a good dad and husband." Okay. The words are humble, but his eyes tell a different story. They flicker side to side, his eyes scanning faces for approval, just as he's always scanned audiences for their validation. This isn't humility. It's a performance glitch, as psychologists call it, the ego dissonance moment, when self and truth collide so violently that the body betrays what the mind refuses to admit. His shoulders tense, his breathing quickens, and for the first time in years, Kody Brown looks small. He stammers, "I hated being blamed for it. It made me resistant to ownership." And that's when one instructor shakes his head and flatly states, "Then you've been a child your entire life." Kank, no music, no edits, just brutal honesty. Within hours of the episode airing, social media erupts. Clips of the exchange flood TikTok and Reddit. Fans freeze frame the exact moment Kody's smirk fades, comparing it to every time he'd lectured Christine or scolded Janelle on Sister Wives. A popular post joked, "The soldier just said what Shabbat seasons of TLC couldn't." Kody Brown is emotionally a teenager. UK. Another says, "That look when the mask finally cracks." Comment sections are digital therapy sessions for viewers who once felt gaslighted by Kody's charm. Viewers replay the clip not for entertainment, but for validation. For years, his wife's pain was edited, diluted, and questioned. Now, in front of men who owe him nothing, the truth speaks plainly. For the first time, Kody faced an audience that couldn't be manipulated, and it broke him. What makes the scene so powerful isn't just Kody's confession, it's his inability to process it. Yuke, a mature man facing his failures, may say in a reflective way, "You are right. I let pride ruin everything." Kody responds like a scolded child, a mix of defensiveness and sulking. His voice goes soft, but his tone sharpens. He nods when he's told he's wrong, but his eyes narrow in search of an escape route. Y'all. This is the same behavior fans saw at home when Christine challenged him about neglect, when Janelle refused to submit, when his sons called him out for favoritism. In every conflict, Kody reacts with hurt pride, never empathy. He doesn't argue for the truth, he argues for victory. And now, surrounded by men who don't care about his fame or his faith, that habit collapses because there's no victory, here only exposure. Watch the video closely and you'll see the exact moment when the performance dies. Kody wipes his eyes, but this time, the tears don't come. His breathing steadies, his shoulders fall. There's nothing left to hide behind. The silence, for once, tends to say more than the speech. It's the sound of realization, the dawning awareness that finally the world sees him without filters, that no amount of confession can take away years of manipulation, and, most importantly, that the sympathy he reaches for simply isn't coming. In this moment, Kody Brown is no father, husband, or leader. He is but a man who sits among the ruins of his own creation, knowing full well that there is no charming his way out. Every empire built on control falls eventually, and Kody's fell the moment he tried to fake remorse. Why do people cling to control, even as it's destroying them, like Kody? Psychologists would call it narcissistic preservation, the desperate need to maintain superiority even if it has to isolate you completely. It is easier to lose everybody than to admit you are the reason they left. And for Kody, the mask wasn't just protection, it was identity. The confident patriarch, the righteous leader, the misunderstood father. That mask got him fame, wives, and validation. Losing it means losing everything. That's why the scene feels so raw. Not because we finally see him regretful, but because we finally see him afraid of insignificance, afraid of irrelevance. Afraid that I'd just become another man who hurt people and called it love. As the credits roll, fans don't cheer, they exhale. That isn't schadenfreude, it's closure. The wives once dismissed as dramatic now stand vindicated. The children blamed for disobedience now stand understood. Christine's quiet strength, Janelle's independence, even Meri's eventual detachment. Each decision that once looked cold now makes sense, because now the world has seen what they lived with, the unpredictable mixture of charm, control, and emotional absence that defined their lives. Special Forces instructors called it adolescence, viewers call it emotional abuse. Either way, the truth remains the same. Kody's greatest battle wasn't with deserts or drills, it was with himself. And he lost. As the episode fades to black, Kody sits alone, his eyes unfocused. The music swells, then cuts. No redemption arc, no neatly packaged lesson, just the unsettling realization that, for all his words, he still hasn't said the one thing that matters. That's what separates repentance from performance, accountability from admission, fathers from actors. He has been telling America who he is for 15 years, but now, for the first time, America decides for itself. When Kody Brown's mask finally slipped, it didn't expose a monster, it exposed a man who had never really grown up. The desert broke Kody Brown, but not in the way he expected. He was not shown humility, he found exposure. As he walks off camera, wiping his face with shaking hands, the world is left to wonder, will he ever face his children, not as their leader, but as their father? When the dust settled and the cameras stopped rolling, one truth echoed louder than anything. Kody said, the world wasn't buying it. Viewers didn't see a man finally awakening to his failures. They saw a man rehearsing empathy, hoping someone would clap. The comments flooded in, a verdict from the courtroom gallery. Too late, he's only crying because nobody's listening anymore. 18 kids, and not one real apology. The crew our ever-watchful community had reached its verdict. Kody Brown may have confessed, but he hasn't changed. Even Special Forces fans who had never watched Sister Wives saw right through the act. He's not broken, one wrote, he's exposed. And that's exactly what happened. For the first time in years, Kody's charm couldn't shield him. The uniformed men saw immaturity. The audience saw manipulation. The wives saw confirmation. In the end, there was one unanimous verdict: guilt without growth, confession without consequence. Kody might have survived the desert, but his image didn't. So, crew, what do you think? Was this Kody's redemption story? or just another episode in his lifelong performance? Can drop your thoughts below as this time the court of public opinion is still very much in session.